Debates about coalition governments and their effect on political stability and good governance have again come to the fore. This as the country prepares to go to the polls in May. The United Nations Development Programme in South Africa and the South African Local Government Association recently hosted a coalition seminar on strengthening inclusive coalition governance for effective, efficient and transformative service delivery. The UNDP's Programme Manager for Governance, Bongani Matomela, joins us now for more on this. Bongani, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. So we really do appreciate it. I think we saw the seminar take place over the 28th and the 29th of February. I think let's start off with the key learnings, because as you heard from that package, you've got the electorate that is preparing to go and vote. Some saying they simply don't want to vote because they don't see a difference, particularly where areas where they have seen local government led by coalitions. What can we learn that has come out of the seminar on the 28th and the 29th of February, the highlights?
Good morning, Naledi, and the viewers at home. Last week on Wednesday and Thursday, as the UNDP, together with South African Local Government Association and Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, a foundation from Germany, we hosted this two-day seminar on looking at options and ways to strengthen coalition governance in South Africa. We've seen over the years that this is the norm, and this is going to be the normal way of life as voters make their informed choices on electing their political leaders. A number of things came out from the seminar that included experts in the field, but also civil society organizations that represent the interests of the communities. They were in the main about the three issues that dominated the discussion. One was the need to ensure that there's political stability, and the instability of coalition is affecting the political and the governance of the municipalities. The second thing was around the administration, the extent to which the administration need to continue to be stable as the coalitions were grappling with issues of deciding how they want to govern the various cities. The third thing really revolved around the involvement of communities, the extent to which communities are part of the process, because more often than not, we hear that the discussions usually happen at the level of political parties, but the community voices are not yet in terms of their needs and their wants.
Right. So let me ask you this. What are the recommendations that then were put forward by the seminar? Because ultimately you want to be able to hear that there is some sort of guidance, that recommendations are either going to be given to lawmakers or the IEC about what happens post those 29 May elections, where we'll very likely be seeing coalitions at provincial and even national level.
Yes, indeed. In fact, the seminar was meant to contribute to the development of an emerging framework that will also affect other levels of government, like at provincial and also at national level, not only local government level. A number of things were considered. I think one of the things, the experience from local government is that for too long, or for municipalities, they are using a mayoral executive system, which really gives powers, to the top level of the political administration. An example was made that, for example, in most municipalities that are in coalition, KwaZulu-Natal, they use a collective executive system of government. And that is also the experience of other countries like Germany and other countries in Africa as well, that they've explored a collective approach to governing a city or a municipality or even a level of government that is under coalition. And the other thing related to the learnings is the need for political maturity as well. I think the political players need to start grappling with the need to put the needs of the voters and citizens at the forefront, and be more mature in terms of how they want to manage the coalition arrangement. The other learnings is around the administration, how we need to ensure that the administration is stable, even when the negotiations for coalitions are still happening, and the need to professionalize the public service. That was one of the recommendations that were made, taking into account the framework professionalization by the Public Service Commission and other players.
Let me step in here, because it sounds to me like we're certainly using the right words, but again, for the South African who wants to know that there are going to be governance structures that translate into service delivery, we want to see the nuts and bolts of it, of what that's going to look like. I mean, we're seeing articles now over the weekend talking about, a government of national unity rather than a coalition government is what's best for the country. A government of national unity is what South Africa had in 1994, for instance. But to the average South African, that may very well sound like wording. and not practicality, right? So, especially when you start to speak to the political parties. I mean, many political parties, for instance, the governing party, the ANC, saying that they're going into these elections looking for an outright majority, despite polls seeing them win less than 50% of the election. So, already, you talk about that political maturity. The likelihood that we're actually going to be seeing it post the 29th of May, when you've got political parties that say that they're all gunning for an outright majority and not considering what coalitions are going to look like. So what nuts and bolts do we need to have in place when political parties are already not thinking coalition readiness?
I think one of the things that was discussed basically quite a lot in the seminar was the fact that as society we need to respect the voter choices, that the voter patterns and behaviors are actually pointing to some kind of a coalition, and the voters and citizens themselves feel that, we need to have more political players in the space, and that political parties and players need to take into account the voter choices and the voter trends as well. Some of the lessons and learnings from other jurisdictions is that, for instance, when these parties negotiate, the agreements must be published, or at least the principles that inform the arrangements that they make need to be published, and there has to be a mechanism to track the extent to which those agreements are implemented. Also, there was also a discussion about exploring the need to consider the recall mechanism, for example, because the legal framework does provide for a recall of public representative in case that there's a deadlock in terms of the finalization of the negotiation process. We also discussed the need perhaps to consider extending the timeline that is given to political players after the elections to negotiate the agreements. At the moment, the timeline was considered to be a bit too short, and in other jurisdictions, in other countries, there's ample time for parties to come together to negotiate the agreements, and the need to ensure that those agreements, or at least the principles, are published by the public, and public has an opportunity to engage in those agreements, and there must be a regular communication of those agreements in case the coalitions do not work, that the public must at all material times be informed.
I mean, we had the 2021 local government elections when we started to see the advent of coalitions at quite a large scale at local government. Are we having this conversation too late? The 29th of May, honestly, for many could be seen as just around the corner. And again, for community members who want water, electricity, refuse removal, I mean, just service delivery, to wait for agreements to be made it means, are we waiting for services to be delivered? So essentially what I'm asking is, could we have had this conversation earlier?
This is very, very important, because I think one of the issues that we discussed was the need to try and locate the discussion to the needs of the communities, and to ensure that the voices of the communities themselves are heard in this debate. And the need for political players, when they start making these agreements or engaging in discussions and negotiations, they should actually involve the communities. But I think the important thing that also came from the seminar was that the running of the administration needs to continue, despite the political uncertainty into the formation of government, be it local, provincial, or national government level. And I think the issue about ensuring that there is continuity at the administration level to ensure that services are delivered. And we need a mechanism that should ensure that and safeguard the stability and the continuity of how this administration are running, so that we do not wait for political arrangement to be negotiated. That may take a long time. So this was one of the recommendations that was made, that we need to ensure continuity in the administration and service delivery.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that that's something that's actually plausible for us to actually see post May the 29th. But we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. I imagine we'll be chatting more about coalitions and how they're going after the end of May. But let's leave it there. Bongani Matomela, the United Nations Development Programme Manager for Governance.